This tool wall was the first thing I built when I started learning woodworking. It's called French Cleat.
So, how does a French cleat actually work? It's super simple, but also really smart. You take two pieces of wood and cut both at a 45-degree angle. One piece gets mounted to the wall, the other piece gets attached to whatever you want to hang, with the angled edge facing down and in. When you place them together, the angles lock in, using gravity and surface contact to hold everything tight against the wall. It's strong, secure, and best of all, you can lift it off and move it anytime. No screws, no fuss.
Let's talk about tools you will need to make a French cleat wall.
Everyone has different tools. You can use your plunge saw or a circular saw with a bevel function, but since we need to make repeated cuts with the same measurements, I'd personally use my table saw for that. First, I set my table saw fence to 85mm to make the French cleats and lock them in place. And of course you need plywood here.
I double checked the measurements and now I'm ready to cut. I'm using 15T plywood here. That's about 5/8 of an inch. I cut the first piece and then simply repeat the process. And we have 7 long pieces and we're going to cut them at a 45-degree angle. It doesn't seem like perfect cut, but I think I can still use it. So we're gonna move on to miter saw. I've got 7 cleats ready and I'm cutting them down to size with the miter saw so they fit perfectly on the wall. And you're gonna have these little pieces after cut. Keep the leftover pieces. They might look like scrap, but trust me, they will come in useful later. Finally, time to install the cleats. First, I'm applying wood glue to the back of each cleat. I'll start from the bottom and work my way up. To make sure everything lines up properly, I'm using a level to get the first cleat perfectly straight. This is actually important because all the other cleats will follow this line. Once it's level, I temporarily hold it in place. In my case, I use the brad nailer to tack it in. I guess you remember we have leftover pieces from cutting cleats. Now I'm gonna use these leftover offcuts from earlier to stack on top of installed cleats. This helps me keep the spacing consistent as I move up the wall. Before fastening with screws, you don't want to miss the stud. That's where the real strength comes from. I use the stud finder to locate the studs behind the wall. Then I use the countersink bit to drill holes in the cleats I temporarily tacked in place. Using a countersink bit and secure them with screws to make everything solid and strong. That's it. The French cleat wall is done. This was one of the very first things I made when I started woodworking. So if I can do it, you can definitely do it too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!